Hi, I'm Alex and I was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia on the 18th of June 2019. I just wanted to share my story and just tell you about how the diagnosis came about and how it was kind of like. So it first started when I had just come back from laser tag and I'd been fine the whole night. I was running around and shooting people and I came back and I think I was walking up the stairs and all of a sudden I had this really sharp pain in my lower back, and it started off kind of just mildly irritating, but then it got really bad and it hurt to move and walk. So I came downstairs into the living room where my parents were and I told them that I was in a lot of pain, and my dad had back pain, so he kind of told me to lie down on the floor against the sofa and put my legs up on the sofa, kind of bent, if you get how that works. I decided to go to bed for the night, but I couldn't sleep. The paracetamol I had wasn't working and I just couldn't manage the pain. So in the morning, my parents decided to take me to the GP, and when I was there, they said that it was unusual for me to have that pain for no reason in my age. They kind of just checked where it was and they told me to rate my pain on my back in certain areas, but they said if it was still hurting a week later to come back. They also said to take some ibuprofen as well as paracetamol. But I was doing a bit better a week later, so we went to my brother's karate tournament, and while I was there, I was managing the pain much better, but it was still quite uncomfortable to sit down in certain areas, so I had to sit out of the room. But while we were there, I noticed kind of a pinprick rash. It was a reddy, purpley pinprick rash on my legs and in the crooks of my arms, and kind of looked like angry freckles. But so I went to school the next day because I was generally fine. I just missed PE, but I was booked in for their out of hours GP after school. But it was last period. I noticed I also had a weird bruise on my arm, and I hadn't recalled bruising myself or how I even got it. So I was quite worried because I had weird back pain, I had a weird rash on me, and now I had weird bruising and I didn't know how I got it. So I went to the office and I was looking quite pale as well, so they decided just to call my parents, and I was going to the out of hours GP soon anyway, so I just spent the last period resting at home instead. We went to the GP, and when we were there they did a few more tests, but the guy there said they wanted to do some further checks like blood tests and stuff at A&E, so we went to A&E, grabbed myself some food. We didn't know how long we were going to be waiting there, so it's fairly quick, I'd say. We didn't wait for too long, and they got myself checked, and I had some cream on my hands because they needed to put cannulas in my hands to check my blood and take some blood samples. So we ended up actually going on to Ward 15. I think it was Ward 15. Anyway, it's the adolescent teenager ward, and staying overnight just so they could check my blood results in the morning. We did a bit of waiting around in the morning the next day, but then some people came into the room and they closed the door, and that's when they told me I had leukemia. And leukemia is basically, simple terms, where you have too many white blood cells that are being produced, which can then affect the rest of your other blood cells, like your red blood cells and your platelets. Your platelets kind of are the ones that, if you get bumped, they're there so you don't get bruises as often. That's why I was having the weird bruising. So we needed to get my dad back from London because we didn't want him walking straight onto a children's oncology ward, but they needed to transfer me to Birmingham because they needed to do a bone marrow aspiration, which was going to check which type of leukemia I had. It would be lymphoblastic or myeloid. Okay, they need to do a lumbar puncture to check my spinal fluid, to check whether I had any cancer cells in there, because that would have changed my treatment as well. And they also needed to get my line put in, because that's what they'd take blood from, and that's what they'd also put chemotherapy through, rather than having to have myself pricked with a cannula every single time. On the 18th of June, I was transferred from Coventry to Birmingham Children's Hospital by ambulance. The 19th, I was nil by mouth because I was going to have my procedures that day. And the 20th was when I found out what the type of cancer I had was, and that I had no cancer cells in my spinal fluid. So I've currently had 7 months of chemotherapy and treatment. I haven't had to have any radiotherapy, which is good. But I'm now on the maintenance part of my treatment, and it will end September 2021.